Who are you?
Okay, so I'm Omar Hamoui. I'm the CEO of AdMob. AdMob's a mobile ad network. We essentially run text and banner ads across about 3,500 mobile websites.
Wow.
We've been around for about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just for mobile, you're not like Federated Media doing stuff for blogs or video or web pages.
It's
just
purely
straight,
mobile.
pure mobile on web pages.
That's right, exactly. So when you're browsing mobile websites like CBS or ESPN or 3,500 other sites, social networks, lots of different things, we run text or banner ads on those sites.
Yeah.
Important distinction, when people hear about mobile advertising, the first thing that occurs to them is SMS advertising. We don't send ads to anybody. This is just ads you encounter when you're browsing. So very similar to what you would see on the internet, and we serve now about 2.5 billion impressions every month. Wow. So it's going pretty good.
And you just started like a year ago, right?
2 years.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got here. Because
So,
it's actually a pretty interesting story we were talking about.
Yeah, so I was, this is actually my 5th startup. So none of them were venture backed before, all bootstrapped, but pretty much my whole career is in the startup vein. And I was actually, at the time I was working on this, I was a business school student at Wharton. And I was working on another mobile type idea, and I wasn't able to promote it. Like every time I wanted to do anything, I had to go get a carrier deal or do something, and I was one guy, part-time working on something at business school, so that wasn't quite going to work. So I started running ads on another mobile site, and it was so much easier and better that I decided to switch and sort of build out AdMob instead of working on my previous project. That started gaining some traction, and I got some interest from some VCs who started emailing me. And after many, many long months of working, I finally had a term sheet in place. Fortunately,
but you didn't like the term sheet.
I didn't like the term sheet. So I had a term sheet from that sort of wasn't what I was looking for. There was a lot of board control issues and some other issues. And so I had a friend of mine who basically told me that I should talk with somebody over at Sequoia.
Well, let's back up for a second.
Yeah.
And since this is a fast company interview, we can talk about term sheets.
Sure.
Because I don't usually have a chance to talk with somebody who went through it. And what should an entrepreneur look for? What are the 5 things on a term sheet that you should pay attention to when you get an offer like that?
Okay, so the things you should pay attention to on a term sheet. Actually, I think it's more the things you should pay attention to in the negotiation of the term sheet, right? So part of it is how they perceive the company and how they perceive you, and whether or not they're essentially respecting you as an entrepreneur or really just sort of trying to take over and sort of sideline you, which was more the concern to me about the previous term sheet. One item that is pretty important is the option pool, actually. Okay. So this is kind of an often overlooked item, but if the option pool is very large, essentially what you're doing is providing a discount to the VC. So they'll say, we'll get 20%, you get 20, you get 50%, and the option pool will be 30%. What that really means is that those options that are, if they never get issued, you've basically diluted yourself down significantly. So you should be careful about how that works, and they're very sophisticated on those items, which I wasn't at all. But for me, the real issue wasn't any of the individual items, right? It was more that I felt like asking for reasonable things, and I was being met with a pretty severe response, sort of like well, no one's gonna fund you anyway, so if you don't want to do this, then too bad, kind of thing, as opposed to what I felt would be a more respectful approach. And I thought over the long term, this is not necessarily going to be a healthy relationship.
Yeah. So that's just perceptional that you pick up in dealing with them, trying to argue, trying to negotiate certain things.
Yeah, I think it's even when
you keep hitting walls, and you go, that's not right. It's got to be a two-way street.
In anything, right? If you're going to get a new job, sometimes the interview goes great, and then during the negotiation process is when you find out sort of who you're really dealing with. And I think that's the same way with the VC, right? It's during the negotiation process that you sort of learn about who's really, what's really the tenor of the relationship going to look like.
So anyway, so back to the story. So who ended up
So I got introduced to Sequoia, right? And I had a term sheet that was going to blow up on a Friday, and I essentially I didn't want to go spend a whole bunch of time talking to Sequoia, which was, a big VC that certainly was not going to make a decision as quickly as I needed, because it was Wednesday. I basically had until Friday. So they encouraged me to go out anyway. I flew out on a Thursday night, and Friday night, my term sheet blew up at 5 o'clock. 4:58 p.m. I signed a term sheet with Sequoia, so less than 24 hours, which is, I think at
So
the time I
you
didn't realize the
presented-
magnitude of it. But I mean, it's like one person with a laptop, right? It's just
That's
me.
what you
That's
just
it.
you didn't go into the team. You didn't have a bunch
I didn't
of,
have a team. It was just me. Like the whole company was just me.
Wow.
Yeah, there was like it was a very interesting experience. So, like I said at the time, I didn't really.
Why did they
realize.
move so fast? Because usually it takes a little while for a term sheet to be written up and
Yeah.
back and forth and
I agree. I mean, I don't think that people should necessarily expect or demand people to move that quickly, because it's probably an unrealistic expectation.
Certainly not
But
something like Sequoia. I mean, that's one of the best venture firms in the valley. Right?
absolutely, yeah. But I mean, I made them.
You expect them to do their homework, right? Do a little bit of due diligence, and, like sit around and at least scratch your head for a couple of days and go, should we really do this?
Well, I made them aware of my situation before I went in, right? I told them, like, I've got this thing on Friday, so if you even don't want to see me, that's fine, but I can't do anything about it. So they decided to do it, and they probably, I mean, they're really, really solid guys. Like, I've greatly enjoyed my relationship with them. After I moved over here, I dropped out of school. I was working out of their offices for 4 months, and Jim Getz, who sits on our board from Sequoia, was like a really big mentor to me. Like in sort of all aspects of what they said they were going to do, they did it. But I think during that phase, if you look at it from their perspective, it's a term sheet. Important thing about a term sheet, it's not a legally binding document, right? It's a term sheet. So they had an opportunity to do all their due diligence and all those things after it was signed. In my case, they probably decided to move quickly and then make sure that everything was okay afterwards. But they knew a hell of a lot about me when I walked in the office. They had done a lot of background homework on me beforehand. So I had to do the pitch like 4 or 5 times, because it has to be a unanimous decision. Every partner has to see it, and every partner has to vote yes, otherwise they won't do it. So I was pitching continuously for that entire 24-hour period, essentially, and with some sleep. The pitch was really more about the traction that I had already established. So there was a product. I mean, the site existed. I must have over the 4-month period served maybe 20 million ad impressions over the 4 months that from January to April between when I showed it to them. Keep in mind now we serve like 80 million impressions a day, right? So it took me 4 months to serve 20 million, but at that time that was still something for like one guy in business school working on it part time. We also talked about the sort of complete lack of anything like this in the market. The fact that it was had proven already to be scalable. I mean, if one person could build it as far as it went, then it would be an interesting. And the opportunity in mobile advertising is huge. I mean, the overall market opportunity is extremely substantial, and they tend to be market investors, right? So their whole theory is that if the market is spectacular, even a suboptimal product with a suboptimal team will do fantastically well. Not that hopefully we are either, but they care about markets.
Actually, the way I found out about you, I was
Right.
over at Blue Pulse, which is across the street,
Right.
which actually is where YouTube
That's right. Yeah.
started up.
Yeah.
So you're on a pretty substantial street.
That's how we found this office. We were looking at YouTube's office as well. So YouTube brought a lot of people to San Mateo, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we all know mobile's hot right now, right?
Yeah.
I was at Davos. I met the guy who runs China Telecom, and
Yeah.
he says he's signing up 6 million people a month.
That's
now.
right. Yeah.
Crazy numbers, right? I mean, crazy numbers,
Right.
big numbers. That's why Sequoia's interested, right?
Right.
They see the numbers and they're going crazy.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on with the iPhone came out 6 months ago, and you were telling me a little bit that's changed the advertising space quite dramatically.
Yeah, we actually have an iPhone ad unit that I'll show you guys a video of in a little bit. So mobile is growing really, really fast, and the mobile web I think is so one thing that we've done that I think is important and perhaps slightly overlooked is we really uncovered the speed and the volume of what's going on the mobile web, because this has been something that's basically it went through sort of a standard hype cycle, right? Everybody got really excited about it, and then it wasn't that great, and so WAP is pretty gross, and it is pretty gross, honestly. And people sort of stopped paying attention to it.
Yeah, WAP was like almost like DOS, right?
Yeah, it's like you basically just put
Character-based,
black and white text and like a really ugly bitmap images, and nothing can have tables, and like there's no formatting, and it was slow, and there's a lot of things that were very, very poor from a user experience standpoint. But what turned out is phones evolved, networks evolved. You had CHTML, which could do a much richer interface, and people started using this stuff unbeknownst to anybody. And frankly, still one thing we can talk about mobile is nothing's measured. So I mean, you're in the industry. What's bigger, Facebook on mobile, or MySpace on mobile, or High Five, or Bebo, or is there some special mobile social network that's bigger?
Even Yahoo says they really don't know
Who
how
knows?
to measure this stuff.
Right. So nobody knows. So nobody really knew what was going on. And one of the things we did, and when we go to our site, we'll show, we just put a counter of how many ads we had shown, right? And that just started ticking and really raising. To date, now we've shown about 20 billion ad impressions. We'll cross that threshold probably in the next 30 days or so. That's obviously, that started to draw people's attention. And I think draw people's attention to the volume of activity that's going on. So to tell you just in general about mobile, we've seen phenomenal growth on usage of the mobile web. And it's in places that you'd be surprised at, right? So our network is about 40% US. The next largest country is South Africa. And then India. Then the UK. And these things trade places, by the way.
You would think
and South
India or
Africa.
China would be big. South Africa?
Unlimited data plans for a long time. It's a country that's invested in wireless networks and didn't lay a whole lot of fiber and terrestrial networks. And in a lot of these countries, that is the way they're going to access the internet. China, India, there's not going to be PCs. The adoption of these devices is so far spread. We're even seeing a bunch of other countries in Africa having adoption increasing very, very dramatically. And so when we look at our network and we just look at the existing publishers, if I don't sign up any new publishers in a given month, just organic growth will grow 7% a month. Just doing nothing, right? Treading water.
Yeah. How many people now?
We have 60.
60
Yeah,
in 2
60
years.
people. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. and we got a lot of job openings. So let us know.
I might apply.
So we're talking about the iPhone, right?
Yeah, I have an iPhone.
And Android and there's a whole bunch of these Webkit browsers that are coming out. That's going to
Webkit is the
yeah.
technology that's used inside Safari and inside Nokia's browser.
Right.
Right.
That lets you do the whole proper browsing of the internet, on the iPhone and all these other devices. We see a significant amount of traffic on our mobile sites. These aren't websites, right? So we can only see stuff that's happening on mobile sites, and we see a lot from the iPhone. And I think that, and we have an iPhone-specific ad unit that's used on UIs that are meant for the iPhone, and I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that. I think and the ad units are much better, and everything is much better, and the targeting is better. It's a huge improvement over what we've seen before.
Well,
so I'm
I
very
see
excited
that
about that trend.
I see that. I used to give my son, he's a 14-year-old kid. I used to give him a bunch of phones because
Right.
Sprint would send me phone, Nokia would send me phone. He never used the web until the iPhone came out.
Yep.
The iPhone now, so he's on the web all day long.
And does he use like the web, or does he use the special like Facebook interface for the web, or the special dig interface, or how like everybody's building special interfaces?
He's using quite a bit of the special interfaces. Yeah.
We're seeing a lot more of that. There's even an Apple commercial. They were talking about it's the web. Have you seen the commercial with the Zagat thing? They go to the .mobi site, right? They don't go to the real Zagat site. They go to the one that's made for the mobile interface. And I think those sites, I think this term emerged from like a brainstorm held by GoToMedia a while back, but there's this idea of the middle web. It's not the mobile web, right? It's not the mobile web. It's not the sort of full-on regular web, but it's all the HTML and AJAX and cool interoperability, but a user interface that works well on these essentially small laptops is what they are, right? I mean, it fits and it works, and you get the sliding and all that sort of thing. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this middle web kind of activity, and we're investing a lot in that area because that's where I think most of this is going.
Yeah. Who's your competition? Is it Google? I know
Yeah.
At Google they're seeing the same kind of usage model.
Uh-huh.
They're totally talking about the iPhone internally.
Yep. So our competitors are essentially not a light list. It's Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, America Online.
So
those are our competitors. Oh, and Nokia. I'm sorry, I forgot one other small company.
Yeah, small.
They all became competitors by acquiring other competitors, like the other startups that were in our space, essentially.
Okay. So how are you?
Other than Google, sorry.
Yeah.
Yahoo acquired a company called ScreenTonic. Is that right? No. Was that Microsoft? I think
Microsoft ScreenTonic.
Microsoft acquired ScreenTonic, sorry. Yahoo
Now,
acquired...
who's the voice off the camera?
Sorry, that's Vijay. He helps us out with a lot of our marketing initiatives and stuff. So he knows what's going on more than I do in the industry. So Microsoft acquired ScreenTonic. Yahoo acquired a company called Actionality. AOL acquired a company called Third Screen Media. And Nokia acquired a company called Npocket. And so they all sort of have...
So what makes you so special that you can outrun these elephants,
Well,
or survive being stepped on, right?
Well, I mean, we've we have a different kind of model than most of these companies. So most of them were focused very much on the carrier ecosystem and also on sort of building out kind of hard to build out campaigns for specifically brand advertisers. And we have quite a bit of brand advertisers as well, but most of our model is self-serve, right? Not that Google's isn't, but for the other guys, their model is much more done by hand. Our model is entirely self-serve.
When you say by hand, you have somebody who comes and
a
pitches
sales
you.
force and a business development force, and they sign up 1, 2, 3 publishers at a time. We have 3,500 publishers. We've probably spoken, not that we don't want to speak to them, but we've probably had to go out and pitch and close deals with maybe 90 of them or something like that. So everything else is happening organically, which has allowed us to sort of grow much faster and be a bit more flexible. The other thing, frankly, that we spend a lot of time on that I'm not aware anybody other than Google, again, is spending a great deal of time on is optimization. So we have a team of 4 PhDs who are basically building statistical models to optimize the ads that we serve based on the device and time of day and carrier and country and a whole bunch of stuff that you might not think matters.
Tell me about that field, because I
So
haven't heard that before.
we have, this is something that really, Google brought to everybody's attention when they basically did what they did online, which is, figure out the science behind why an ad would be relevant to somebody versus, not being relevant to a different person, and they mainly use context. So AdSense, basically, as we all know, senses the context of the page, and based on that can deliver a relevant ad. What we've spent a great deal of time on is looking at things like context, but a whole bunch of other variables in mobile as well. And we have thousands of ads and thousands of publishers, and we have to make an intelligent decision 80 million times a day about what ad impression to show. We don't get to show 5, we get to show 1. So we have to pick which one, and every time we pick the wrong one, there's an opportunity cost. And so, we spend a great deal of time analyzing all the variables that go in. Somebody who's on BlackBerry who's looking at a page on ESPN, not just a page, but let's say the NFL page on ESPN, is very different than someone who's on a Razor looking at a profile on a social network. And they actually respond to ads very differently, and they respond to different types of ads very differently. And this is going to be an ongoing battle for us sort of for the rest of the life of the company, but we have spent time with actual substantial effect on the earnings and the click-through rates and the relevancy so far, figuring out what's the most important ad to show to somebody. And we spend a lot of time on that. So I think that's, I'm not aware, we certainly have more data than any of our competitors, including all the big guys, right?
Yeah.
Nobody serves this many ads in mobile, just
Do you have
period.
any recommendations for advertisers then, for businesses who want to get into advertising on the mobile web? What kinds of things are you seeing work really well, or what kinds of things are failing? Or
Yeah, it's I don't think the optimization, I do have recommendations. I don't think it's from the optimization stuff though, because the optimization stuff is really about putting the right ad in front of the right person. It's not necessarily that some ads apply to nobody. Most ads apply to somebody, and we have automated ways of sort of doing our best to put that in the right place. So it's not something an advertiser can necessarily do. What does work well from a conversion standpoint though is it takes a while for advertisers to, I think, migrate from this mentality that they're going to try and give a user a whole ton of information and have very little action that a user can take. Because that's what they're used to on the web, right? You click on an ad, you read lots and lots of stuff and see lots and lots of pictures, and then maybe you can do something. The advertisers that have done better so far in mobile are taking a much more communicative approach, right? This is a device that people want to communicate on. And so internally we almost say, we call it cost per click, but it's really more like a cost per conversation. And if advertisers think of it that way, they'll do a lot better. So don't spend so much time trying to give them tons and tons of information. Just present the proposition you're trying to reach quickly and succinctly, and then provide them a way to talk to you. I mean, lots of advertisers we have ways where people can call, or people can start an SMS conversation, or people can essentially fill out a short form to be contacted and discuss things with the with whatever that happens to be later, or an action like buy movie tickets, or
order pizza,
or
Click
get
here.
ready to this event, or call the dealer to learn more about the car. But the people are, once they've clicked on an ad, they're typically ready to engage. Like it's not, they mean it, you know what I mean? So we'll run campaigns where we haven't talked about click-through rates. Click-through rates are like 10x higher than on the web. So, average click-through rate for us is, easily 1 to 2%. A good campaign will do 3%
Why is
CTR.
that?
It's only one ad, and people, it's new, and it'll, it's a new medium, and users
And people
are
wanna
less
check
cluttered,
out.
and they want to see, right? So if they're learning about movies, or they're learning about, or if they see something that says I mean, imagine if you're on your phone, right, and you saw an ad that said, check out the trailer for 10,000 BC, for example, right? You would probably click on it just because, like, what the hell? I didn't even know I could necessarily do this on my phone, right? So there's some, I think, novelty to it that perhaps will, or likely will wear off. But generally speaking, it's just a lot. You don't have 20 tabs and 50 IM windows open. You're there and you're engaged, right? So.
My brother owns a bar in Virginia,
Uh-huh.
and he knows that his customers will only come from 10 miles around.
Right.
So he doesn't need to advertise to somebody in India
Right.
or in China or Japan or Germany, right? He
Right.
wants to reach the people who have a cell phone within a few miles of his bar.
Yep.
Are you seeing that kind of advertising yet?
No, not so much, not yet. But I think mobile is going to be the way that local gets unlocked, right? Everybody's been waiting for the local advertising medium to get unlocked, and I'm fairly confident that mobile is really going to be the way that we finally see this start to happen, because you can, given the right applications, whether it's Google Maps or I'm sure you've seen stuff from Looped, right? That social network, it's all location based. There are enough applications that are going to depend on location that we're going to start to see that market really, really get unlocked. We haven't seen it just yet, but it's really one of the last promises of mobile that hasn't been quite tapped into just yet, and I would give it maybe 2 years at most before we really start to see it happening at scale.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're going to run a campaign for a photo sharing service.
Okay.
So this is a company that I was working on beforehand, and we'll go ahead and run a quick campaign and kind of see how it works.
Okay.
So I'm just going to click over here to run you guys quickly through the sort of different kinds of campaigns we do run, so you get an idea of what they look like.
Yeah.
So we basically have graphical banner ads or text ads, and you can see here these are sort of the different sizes of banner ads that we have, and here are some of the ways that those ads can look on the device itself.
Yeah.
And the text ads are kind of similar. They basically show up as just small text links while people are browsing.
Yep.
So that's kind of how that works.
Which ones work better now?
Banner ads tend to have a higher click-through rate. Text ads, we found that there are some publishers that actually feel like they clutter up the UI, so we have a bigger distribution on the text ads than we do on the banner ads. But users tend to pay more attention to the banners, certainly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we're going to let's go ahead and dive in, and I'll just show you what the campaign creation process looks like. One moment. So basically, this is the simple interface for me to create a campaign. I already have an ad here for this service, which is called Photo Chatter. And what you can see here is here's my ad text. So it says share pics on your, and you see this weird tag, this %phone thing. That'll actually substitute in the device model. So when a user sees it, it'll say share pics on your BlackBerry, or share pics on your Razor, or share pics on whatever device they happen to be on at the time. So it's
And that's
basically a
server
dynamic
side call, so you know what kind of device is.
Yep.
Well, we know that because we started outside.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
You know whether I'm carrying around an iPhone or a Nokia.
And what carrier you're on and all those sorts of things.
Wow.
The next step is you choose targeting, and this is where things become interesting, because essentially what you can do is you can basically dive in and say, well, I want to run this ad on phones in North America only, let's say, and then with the United States, you can even you can essentially pick. So you can say, I just want to run this on Singular, or I just want to run it on Sprint, or what have you.
Wow.
You can pick platforms, so you can say mid P1, mid P2, Symbian, and these are all essentially the platforms that the phones run on, in case it matters, in case you're running an app. You're running an ad for an application that only works on, let's say, Windows phones. You can run it on phones that support video streaming or WAP push or whatever. You can also run it on particular manufacturers. So essentially what you end up with is the ability to really customize your campaign down to the device. And so let's say you want to just reach people who have iPhones only, right? You can go up here and just select Apple as your manufacturer, and that's the only place that your ads will run. They won't run anywhere, and no one will click on them, and you won't waste any of your advertising on a demographic that you can't target. And then the last step is to choose your channels.
Yeah.
Well, actually, technically the last step is to place your bids, but the next to last step is to choose your channels, and we've divided the network up into essentially 5 different channels so that you can pick relevant content. And then the last bit is you place your bids. And so I'm going to we'll just leave this. I have a 30-cent per click bid, so we'll leave it. So I'll go back here. Back to the My Ads interface. So I actually have $20 in my account here.
Yep.
Right up there at the top, you can kind of see it. It's a small little thing.
Yep.
And so my ad's paused, so I'm going to go ahead and just run this ad,
Okay.
and we'll check out how it does. it's going to take a little. It takes maybe 20 seconds for it to get syndicated out to the ad servers and actually start running. So.
But that fast, you'll see results right away.
We should, yeah. Yeah, we should start seeing results really quickly. In fact, we have, it'll take a few seconds, but what I'll show you is we have a statistics interface for advertisers that is actually real time. So this is a pretty...
How many impressions are you serving out a day now? Or?
We serve about 80 million impressions a day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So that's a few a second.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think we have actually this on the homepage. I can... show you. We have, well, if I can open this in a new tab, but I can't because this is IE. So on the homepage, we actually have this monitor which shows you how many we're showing per second. That rate so you can see we're starting already, right? I've already served. I've already got the impressions will come in a second. It's counting it kind of gets out of sync a little bit in the beginning, but I've already generated some clicks and I've already have a cost. I've already spent 30 cents essentially since we just started the campaign. And this so I had 213 impressions, 6 clicks.
And this is real. This isn't fake.
This is not fake. This is real time. And it's actually I'm not even touching anything. We built it so that it updates every 15 seconds or something like that, so we can just watch the clicks rolling. It's pretty sweet. Now 423 impressions, 16 clicks. I've already spent $2.71 out of my $20.
So 16 people have already in just the time we're talking here.
That's
have
right.
Already clicked on that.
Yep.
That's amazing. I'm sorry. It's just,
Now 30.
I mean, for a business who wants to get their stuff found out, this is a great way to get out and get known.
Yep. So you can actually, this will just keep ticking up. We've already served 577 impressions. We have in the beginning, click-through rates are high. So we have a 5% click-through rate. Well, even higher, apparently, click-through rate. But I've already spent $8 out of my $20 in the last, minute.
So we need to ask our boss for more marketing dollars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, boss, we're chewing through that $20 pretty fast.
Yeah, there you go. So I've spent $12, and essentially this is the way it's gonna run through to the end. This will run for another 30 seconds, and the campaign will be over. So
wow.
Yeah, it works pretty quickly.
And so when can I see where those clicks
Sure.
came from in the world and what kinds of phones they were using, and so can I learn something from this campaign?
So
we could go back to our boss and say, hey, we did this little test, and
that's it. We're done.
And we got an incredible response.
We spent all of our money. We served 12,000 impressions in the past minute, and basically $19.38. So we're done, right? $20.
Yeah.
Game over. What you can do right now is essentially get reports on impressions, clicks. We can provide you with reports by the channel they ran on. We don't have a good interface for the devices and countries and all those sorts of things, and that's actually something we're working on and we're pretty excited about, because I think like you're pointing out and what I said at the beginning, there's not enough data in the whole space for people to get what's going on, and we're spending a lot of time on figuring out how to expose that better to both advertisers and publishers, right, to show the geos and show everything else. Can I show you the iPhone ad unit? I think it's really, so what's essentially happening here is that we're showing a unit where, I want to go to Starbucks, right? So it says, I see Starbucks in your future here, and this is on tap. And so this is what I was talking about. You can do cooler stuff. Like, you can just click on it, and it essentially expands, and then the users can type in their zip code. And once they do that, it's going to shoot them over directly into the native Google Maps application. And show them local Starbucks in their region. And we did something similar to this with Land Rover. It was a really, really big deal. Like, they basically had people physically showing up in their dealership for a small fraction of what they would pay for their TV campaigns and all these other campaigns, and they were just blown away, really excited. There's an article about that particular campaign, I think, in Adodas or something like that.
AdAge.
Yeah. So you can see it sort of pops over to Google Maps, and it kind of works directly from there. It's pretty sweet.
But this gives me a whole new way of interacting with the world out there and
Absolutely.
Doing advertising.
Yeah, and for all the stuff that you're streaming on your phone and people who want to come look at what
Are
you're
you
doing on
doing
mobile.
video ads yet?
We have video ads, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that.
Because
So
I'm doing a lot of video. So
people would love to consume it on their phones. You could run a little promotion and get some traffic over there. So cool. All right.
thanks, man.
Thank you very
This
much. I
is
appreciate
awesome.
it.